And we're back. Man, what a week it's been, and pretty fun weekend for the country. Well, not necessarily fun. We had a bunch of flooding down south. It's putting a lot of people in a bad place, but uh, things are underway to take care of that. So we're not weathermen here. We just kind of like to reflect on some things, but it does have an effect on the market in some spaces. But we're really not seeing a bunch of flows there yet. But like some of the insurance companies might see a hit later on or whatever. In the meantime, we've been kind of cracking on with our stuff, and we found a few good names to mention. We also want to reach out to you guys and thank you for your likes and supports and stuff, and being able to share with your friends what we're about and what we do, and the more people we can help, the better. But also, we take requests. Shoot us a comment either during the broadcast or after the broadcast, and we will come through. Last week, we had a user come out with a question on a few tickers, and I went and just made a special edition on a Friday and said, "Hey, let's look at them." And we pulled up all the dope on those, and we'll follow through with them in a little bit here. We got a big list of stuff to follow up on from last week, and then we got a couple of small lists between Matthew and I about things we're watching this week. And I'll give a quick briefing on Q, and then we can run with that if you want to start with your list afterwards.
Sure.
Week's been pretty good to you, although I guess there's some fun stuff with fees and stuff with the ETFs, but that just kind of that's all business. We want to talk stocks.
Yep.
Q kind of tapped our other liquidity zone here. I like to put these on the 2-hour chart, as you may know. If you are a member of Bullishbrs, or if you've kind of hung around our YouTube channel, you know that I love watching for specific wicks on the 2-hour chart. And when they're in an area of interest, they stick out like a sore thumb. And we went exactly B to A in this range here on this candle from back here on the 20th. And we just sapped that thing B to A and back again. Now we're building a possible reversion here, so we may have an accumulating reversal here to get half of that trend back, which puts us right at about the base of a new liquidity zone we've discovered on this range here, which is quite broad. If we get into an A to B move on that later on, we could see a nice reversion trade coming into either today or tomorrow. And then, we got a little bit of Fed stuff happening this week, and it'll be some outside news influence on the market. But then we got this potential war with Iran that's kind of stemming, and that's where we had to break out our bear teeth this morning. It took me a minute to get into the swing of being a bear again, but it was pretty obvious by the time it broke our pivot in the upper range of this liquidity zone, and it just smoked all the way down. Took a couple of short scalps there, but it's hard for me to trade while I'm demonstrating, so it's a little tricky to hang on to. But I started looking for all the little snaps for the quick halfbacks to maybe trade counter trend, waiting for a reversal, stuff like that, and then scalping bearish. But for now, I think QQQ is looking for that halfback move. I think we're going to start seeing a reversal down here and start maybe giving some range. Probably by about midday, we should see resistance peak at about 480.50, and then we'll see if we can kind of range one more time, test this for support, and then get that half back. If it fails to give the half back and it starts eating up this liquidity zone, look south. There's a full measured move to be had there. Even further down, we can go and test the bottom of this gap here on a 4-hour chart pretty readily. Might even get so swifty that we test the 473 pivot again. That thing's been a legend.
I'd watch 477.63.
That's a good number. That's right about where the base of our liquidity zone is, right in there. And that 63 is probably exactly half of the measured move down from our previous trend for a 1.5 for 1. I think it is. Yeah, it's like right in there, right at that number. Cool beans. I would love to see that for support and give us a half back, but if it crunches, well, we know we wait for the setup to break and we trade the break. So again, we always say don't trade the setup, trade the break. If you're nimble, scalp the setup. That's what I do. Anyway, we'll start with your list here. Let me get you going here. Let me get into my I keep it tracked on my station because I'm the one with the chart up, obviously, but we got the first one is GPCR. That's an interesting sector to be in this time of year, but you got some dope on it. We've been beating this thing since we were talking smack about Kramer, and that was about the last time we charted it. But we finally finished that measured move, more or less. Are we looking to go a little more high, or a little higher?
Yeah, I mean, the weight loss drugs are one of our main themes. They've all gotten their butt kicked, past couple of days here. This has held up. It dipped, did a little undercut and rally on the 200-day. What is that, on
Yeah.
Friday? Rallied yesterday and is well off the lows today. If I were looking for a breakout, I'd look at that 45 area. And if I were looking for a stop, I'd look at the 10-day or the 200-day. But not a bad spot
And
here.
our short-term moving averages differ a little bit. Yours is a 10-day, mine's an 8-day, but it seems to be holding a trend pretty well. The candle kind of stops right on
Yeah.
that 8 period and just keeps on trucking. So yeah, if we get above, and I'm going to print this out as a liquidity zone to me. Let's go with short term here, 2-hour chart again. I'm going to look for what sticks out where the sellers were, melt through the sellers, and we find, usually a test for support and continues crushing on, or cracking on, as the folks from across the pond would say. And if this is an accumulation and this is our primary move, and we've kind of got it blocked out here, this is where we were looking for when we were talking about dealing with Kramer. This was the primary, this was the secondary. It hasn't hit that target yet, and that's about a reversion of this entire trend here. So I would see this as likely being choppy in there, but eventually it looks like it could just melt on up and finish that move. So finally, I mean, after months, well, not months, a few weeks. Long story short, that sector might start seeing some rotation. Has it completed market structure yet? Where's the risk? Well, we do see the hype wave. We do see the typical bio stock kind of genre here, where it comes down, gets capitalized. It's accumulated once. There's the first squeeze. We're expecting a second squeeze here. It's not quite into the lows, but it's market structure enough. And if it can breach the mean of this trend here, we could see it go a little bit higher and start to look for resistance up here around 53 in the long term. But we got a lot of work to do before we can attempt that. So yeah, definitely keep an eye on this thing. That's kind of looking like your basic market structure move. Ooh, I like it. Another one that was kind of interesting here, and you're looking at the geothermal sector, which is kind of got some headspace for becoming the next thing. I mean, as far as volcanism goes, this planet's got lots of heat to offer. That moon kind of keeps things bending and keeps all the rocks moving around and making friction, and friction makes heat. We got lots of that, and tapping into that energy source is not going to have any effect on our planet whatsoever. It's kind of a gold mine, and it's free energy basically once you've got the infrastructure in place. But you were looking at what is it, ORA?
ORA. So, the T in our heat formula is themes. And, I think you always, if you've got a longer term portfolio, want to be trying to figure out what are going to be the next big themes. And we certainly know, and you heard it here before, it got out there among the masses, AI power generation
Right.
is going to be a huge theme. AI is coming whether we like it or not, and if it doesn't kill us all, it is going to need massive amounts of energy. Now, we can argue where that energy is going to come from. I would argue that it's going to have to be clean and dirty, but you'll have other people saying, well, no, it's going to be clean. Geothermal is clean. Aura, and I've got to do some more work on this sector. Aura is one of, if not the only, public companies in the space, and they have options. So I just bought some calls today on the dip a little bit here. And this is something, again, I'm going to be doing more work on. It looks like there's one big company in the space that's currently private, but they made some announcements that may open up the floodgates for other companies to come into this. So, this, among all the AI power generation, is something we're going to be watching very, very
And that
closely.
that private sector, I mean, that's something that can easily IPO. I mean, that's
Well, exactly.
all that takes is just some paperwork, really. But the setup looks pretty clean. I mean, price action wise, it's got a short-term, nice measured move that's completed. It's given the half back with today's little wick on the pullback there, so it's a good time to look for long positions. Long-term swing, it's set up for a pretty sizable move on the weekly chart here.
And I'm up 6% on my
Nice.
calls. Very nice.
And mean reversion from the previous trend. I mean, we go from what about 150 or $100.50 to about 58 or so. So about the mean is where this liquidity zone pops right up here on the weekly, and I marked it with a really broad liquidity zone. One of these days I'll change a color for the weekly so I can recognize on the short term. But long story short, we've got a nice one-for-one setup. Mean reversion on that thing's about $84 and some change. So I mean, yeah, options would kill it in that move. You give yourself at least half a leap space, like 90 days to expiration. Some people would be playing in the 45 DT range for the short-term moves, of course. Others, they like the 30-day, whatever. I kind of where that time decay or that theta tends to take a sharp turn at about that 30-day mark to where it starts to really eat away at value. So I prefer, if I'm going to have a long swing on this, and the setup is looking at a weekly chart, at least 45 DT. So yeah, it looks like a good options play, and I could see maybe adding some debit spread leaps up in that probably 80-85 range would be nice if it's got the liquidity to do a good bid-ask split on that. That'd be a very nice move. I like the space and I like the idea, and quite contrary to the movie The Matrix, the human body doesn't make as good of a battery as a melted core of rock below your feet.
But let's hope not.
I think the heat in the Earth is going to be pretty much infinite in that respect, and as long as we keep orbiting the sun and the moon keeps orbiting us, we're gonna have volcanism. So it's just inevitable. So tap that space all you want. You're not going to turn Earth into Mars. That's a nerd coming out of me. I'm sorry, man. I think like that.
It's all right.
But hey, I mean, it's
there's not enough space on this podcast for both of us to be cool.
Right.
So totally
we could nerd out all day long with this thing and just sit here and go into the retrospective space. Which reminds me, we're kind of kicking around the idea of starting our own Twitter space. So maybe we could start having some of those in-depth, long-term conversations on stuff. But for what we do here on our broadcast, we keep it kind of within an hour, and we go over some stocks to watch. And this is certainly one that's looking good. And like you said, energy demand, if it's going to be nuclear or geothermal, I think both of those sectors are going to kill it with the amount of demand we're expecting from AI. And this is one of those underwatched, underutilized spaces. So this is kind of like catching rotation in a sector. It's like you've got a really good edge here. Cool. I like the idea. That's a good swing. We got some good price targets. Cool. Next thing to look at, NVO. This is another one that you've been killing it on, and it's got a beautiful pullback today. In fact, we've pretty much given a mean reversion of this entire trend. Let me throw some more dope on this thing. Yeah,
I'd be looking for an undercut and rally on the August 7th low, which was 118.35. So, I mean, this is a long-term hold for me, but I'd buy more if it broke through 118.35. You've had some noise out of Washington, but I mean, at the end of the day, unless, and the only thing that changes the game for me on these weight loss drugs is if Trump gets elected and Bobby Kennedy is in the administration and has some sway. He is not a fan of the GLP-1s.
right.
But if that doesn't happen, Americans are going to take a shot over changing their diet and going to the gym. And, in this stock would be a gift down here.
True. And yeah, I think, it's going to be probably very influenced by whatever the election outcome is, for sure, to say the least. And we can trade it both ways. We got targets on either side, so like we could trade bearish if one side of the aisle wins, and bullish if the other side of the aisle wins. Quite frankly, and we're right in the middle of a half back, so I mean we're kind of hanging right in there. So the 2 hour chart is, like I said, I always look for those liquidity zones. That nice wick right there was where there were some buyers, and they kind of bounced it up. You got the massive gap up out of it, so that constitutes a perfect liquidity zone in spite of this long reach down below it here, where we're at now. And if I stripe a pivot right at the base of that wick, I bet you it lines up with where we toyed with just recently. Aha! So now we've got a double bottom set up. We're at L2. R1 is at the top of our liquidity zone. This is what I would call a primo setup. It can probably give us that push back and give half this trend back. But watch this pattern. It's going to be either a make it or break it move very soon, either today or tomorrow, it looks like. And if it gives us a genuine bona fide reversal, it gets above about 119.50, we should start seeing some follow through and liquidity grabbing this thing up. Short-term target 121.40 for some day traders, and then there's this gap that's pretty obvious here. Mean revert that trend, and you get 124 and some change for a pivot. And if it swings higher, well, we could go all the way to the next LZ, baby. Pretty obvious stuff. Once you start marking that stuff out like that, price action gets easier and easier and easier. Before long, you just glance at the chart. You don't need to draw a damn thing. You just sort of see it. And that repetition is pretty spot on most of the time. So yeah, watch for that second low here for that reversal to spring up within the end of the day or middle of tomorrow. And if we get an actual reversal that holds that, and I've got the pivot down here like 117.50-ish for the base of that long wick. It's right in that range. As soon as we see it break above, 118.60 or so, we should see some momentum take it to the upside. So I like the setup. Definitely a very good setup. Long-term risk, though, look left. That's been quite the parabolic trend. Holy smokes. And I don't think this thing has seen market structure yet. So, yeah. If things go the other way, and if the other side of the aisle takes the lead on the polls and starts to swing this thing, well, we've got this massive measured move right on our doorstep here, and if it starts to smoke this level, we could be bears. We could put our bear teeth in and just short it. So,
yeah, and I don't think you're going to see anything happen between now and the election
yeah,
that's going to give you any clarity on who's going to win.
true.
I mean, anything can come out of Trump's mouth. The people voting for him won't care. Kamala's not going to say a word.
Yeah,
VP debate is tonight, but nobody gives a crap about the VP
no,
debate. So, I think the first inkling we'll get is, the day after the election on what we're dealing with. And still, this is something Trump could lose interest in. You need Bobby in there. He would be the guy who would hurt this stock. Without him, I wouldn't really be worried about the weight loss
agreed.
drugs.
Yeah, I mean it's got the setup. All it needs is the catalyst to come through, and bada bing, we get momentum, and momentum's what we like to trade. So good stuff. Got a few other things to reflect upon from last week, and I think we'll have plenty of time for that. So,
Well, but before you do, one other new thing is I would be looking to get some VIX exchange traded product puts. Right now, I'm long VIX. If it stays elevated like this, we'll probably close out our positions today and flip short. Again, through puts, never short
yeah,
VIX outright,
yeah,
especially when we're staring at the potential of a
that's a
war.
suicide mission.
But yeah, but when VIX gets elevated like this, it needs a reason. Right now the market's selling off. I mean, you've got this port thing, which could be an issue, but it's not a fear issue.
Right.
You do have the potential war, but I'm 55. There's been war in the Middle East since I've been
Same.
alive. There'll be war in the Middle East until I'm dead.
and long
So,
after.
I don't tend to worry about it that much from a market
That'll keep
perspective.
going on like taxes, man.
Yeah.
Looking at, if you wanted to look at UVX, I'm looking at UVXY because I like the chart better on it. But I mean,
I like whatever you have the most liquid options in that
true.
day, and it depends. Sometimes it's VXX, sometimes it's UVXY, sometimes it's UVIX. Usually, I'm buying puts on UVXY, occasionally
For
VXX. Once in a blue moon, I look and like, yeah, UVIX is a better spread. So I'll do
for
that.
me, I'm like, pretty frugal when it comes to risk, uh, risk reward ratios. So like I like to go kind of outside the or at the edges on the options chain where everyone else likes to be like closer to the money. Um, and for me, UVXY seems to be the most giving when it comes to frugality in your positions. So that's usually why I'll chart it. I try to focus on trading it, but you're right. I mean, if the liquidity's better on any of the other VIX products, so be it. Go for it. It's got a little bit of a threat of breaking the mean reversion from this previous range here, but it so far has rejected that mean, and I think we're pretty much in line for, yeah, we could see some good put action here. Looking for a push back down to like 25 bucks, and if we smoke that, we'll get a full move out of it down to 23 pretty easily. Um,
Yeah. And one has to wonder, do the Iranians really want to fight the Israelis after they just wasted Hezbollah?
and that's just one of probably many other plans they already have in motion. Knowing, how Israel operates, I mean, they are one of the I think they're probably the best military in the world. Really, they're just small.
I mean, I wouldn't mess
Hell
with them.
no. I've I had kind of an ironic living situation when I lived in the greater Los Angeles area, as I had Iranian neighbors, and right across the street were some college age kids from Israel, straight from Israel. And we all got along on the weekends. I mean, we'd all just hang out, and food is the common denominator between any warring country, as far as I'm concerned. People love food, and we're the people, we're not the government, you know? So when it comes to that kind of thing, cool. But it's kind of neat to see that I got to talk to them and get to know them and know about where they're from and stuff. And it's like mandatory that every child attends military service in Israel. And I wish our country was like that. I really do. It really gives them a higher respect and regard for their own country, as well as quality of life. I mean, they really respect that, and they're some of the neatest people I've ever known. They're the kind of people where if they throw a rave out in the woods somewhere, everybody who paid to be there is probably helping pick up trash when it's over. That's how cool these people are. So they have a different kind of respect for that, and I really do appreciate that. So, but as far as like taking sides on a war, I don't think Iran wants to really mess with them full scale. I think this is just tit for tat and a bunch of crap going back and forth. But cool, makes the market move because we love volatility. So they're going to do their thing, we're going to do our thing. Um, Looking at the price action though on UVXY, yeah, I think we've cleanly rejected that mean reversion. It's looking south already, so I'm probably going to look at QQQ bullish here in a moment. Anything else you want to put on your list, or are we going to go and pick off a few of mine? And
No, I mean, I've got 22 names right now I'm looking to buy, and they're all curling at key moving averages. So I'm gonna wait. Maybe next
this is
week.
probably a good
Maybe
it's probably a
Thursday.
good day to be patient. That's for sure. I mean, this is only Tuesday.
I mean, I love buying dips, but not when something's gone up a ton. It's curling at big moving averages,
Right.
and there's a lot of white space
And
underneath.
there's a lot of weight to move, and there's some catalysts in the air, missiles in the air, as we were joking about earlier. And yeah,
Right.
when things start to land, they're going to make big moves. So we're set up for probably a phenomenal few stocks to trade starting about Thursday. It sounds about right. So catch us on Thursday. We're going to have some killer price targets, and we'll keep maintaining that 94% accuracy rating. Looking into, I've got a short list as well. I only have a few equities on it, But then we got a few to look back on, a few to reflect on from. We'll pat ourselves on the back for a few, but there's a couple where I'm kind of watching for neutrality to change to where we can start seeing some swings. One I've been watching for a long time and trading very well. I kind of missed the last opportunity on it, but I've got the position on now is ZIM. The shippers are pretty awesome when it comes to rotation. Back in December, it was pretty much a nice setup. We got the 1-for-1 here. We traded that, got the half back, didn't short that, took the second leg of it, got this, nailed that measured move, and then we saw this big old broad range up here of accumulation where we set up a secondary move, and it's just kind of ran way up yesterday. We got a nice spinning doji, so we've got a beautiful beautiful pullback today. We've kind of settled right in about half that and hit some liquidity. So let's check the 2-hour chart. We're starting to see that there's a pretty obvious pivot right in this area, and it's kind of right in the half back zone. So if we see this continue to consolidate here, finishing that bullish move is pretty likely. So this is a beautiful pullback on this position, and a good opportunity where if it holds here, we could get long and go higher. Let's look at the weekly chart. The reversion is pretty obvious on this thing. Market structure, I mean, this is IPO day. This is beautiful for market structure. Catching that rotation was dead on. We did a great job with that. That was like the first accumulation range we like to see in market structure, and then it didn't give us really a second one. But if you look back here, it kind of did. So now we're back into finding this area as support. So this was our second reach. This is our second squeeze. Accumulation was broad and still generally bullish. Reversion target is a little bit beyond a half back. It's up into the upper third, and you can see obvious liquidity here. So we're looking for a stretched out target on this thing around 28 bucks or so with the measured move, and then liquidity up here. Probably going to find some sellers or profit takers between like 28 and 30. Watch for a zone there to kind of give us some more opportunity to get long in this thing. But so far, this has been a phenomenal performance for shippers, and this is just
Keep an eye on a couple of things. You've got the dock worker strike, and you've got the potential of maybe like the Persian Gulf getting shut off.
exactly.
I don't know what impact that'll have on this name. I mean, my guess is it being down 6.7% today has something to do with those things. But I mean, that could create a nice little dip buy opportunity here. Because
it's funny you should mention that catalyst. I mean, the Middle East getting shut down would definitely affect these guys. It would probably give us a really nice pullback. Back around December, isn't that when we had that tanker stuck in the Suez Canal, somewhere around there?
Yeah.
And once that resolved, we got these just beautiful bullish moves out of it, and it was just pretty simple. Eventually they're gonna get that tanker unstuck. And when they did, all the shippers kind of ripped. Even Top Ships gave us a good move on that. We don't invest in Top Ships. We trade it, though. And that thing is just a day trader's gold mine when it sets up. Don't mess with it if you're not nimble, though, because that thing will rip your face off in a heartbeat. So, especially when they keep doing reverse splits and mixed offerings and shortening down that market cap and that free float cap more and more and more. That thing's just going to get more and more volatile as time goes on. Who the hell knows what's going to happen to that company long term? I don't like it as a company at all, but when we scalp it, it works. So, moving on, I'm going to go with the controversial thing. I'm going to pull out GME. Oh gosh, this thing's taboo when it comes to swing traders, but we know a good setup when we see it. So looking at the daily, we've got this obvious angular resistance line here, and it threatened to break out today and yesterday. And so far, we're looking for, if it holds this accumulation range, and if it holds about $22 and some change here, we could see continuation. Once we see a breach of this angular resistance here with some good force, we've got a pretty obvious half a measured move target at about 23.70. Full measured move target would be up here at about 25 bucks, and then that's where the liquidity is on a 2-hour chart, obviously. So kind of watch for some sellers up in there, and that is basically a reversion setup of the previous pattern. But let's go back a little further out here. that liquidity zone is a little bit more of the mix. So if we go high to low from here to here, that's about the mean. And there's obvious liquidity on a daily chart here where the spinner was. So if things get swifty and we start to see, the apes start to chase this thing, and institutions love the liquidity that the apes bring. Well, the ones that actually, do some research and some technical analysis and actually trade well instead of just shorting everything, will do well to look for a long position and start taking profit right around that $28, right around that reversion target. So, if you follow the big money, you trade on the coats of the whale, coattails of the whale, so to speak. You do well with that. But watch this setup. This is going to be one to watch for sure. If it breaches, it'll give us a hell of a bullish swing. If it fails, cool. We just go back for a mean reversion. We'll get half of this back. Pretty easy. So I'm not saying buy it or sell it. I'm saying watch this level. There's your targets. Those are pretty easy to see. Worst case scenario, we get a half back and we start looking for a pivot down here at about $20 and change or $21 in that range somewhere. So gonna see some action on this thing. And it's either going to give us a really nice bull swing or a really nice bear swing. Either way, watch this range. It's going to happen. I'm going to bring it up today, and I'm going to revisit this on Thursday, and we'll see where we go from there. Another one I've been watching forever and trading forever, well, a long time anyway. And I like to think of these guys as a disruptor in the financial space because they kind of become the middleman when the big banks are having trouble, and when the regional banks are having trouble. These guys have kind of always been there. Talking about Square. If you go to any small town or big town alike, all of the small businesses have a Square terminal. I don't know if they're the best possible fees or whatever. I know MasterCard charges up the nose, and so does American Express for all of the small business transactions. It kind of eats into their profit. They turn to Square, it seems. But the setup is pretty good. If we hold this $65 mark and we start to breach outside of resistance here, we could see it follow through and hit $71, $72. Obvious liquidity there on a daily chart. But let's have a look at the weekly chart. And this is where I really like to look. So we have our basic market structure. And if you look back, it never really had it in the beginning. But this is going to do one of two things. And you kind of look at this. Everybody sees this as a big, giant heads and shoulders pattern. Okay, but there's your analyst target. It's going to be right there about 89 bucks. If it rejects there, cool. We'll just short it back down to the lows or mean reversion of the lows, whatever it may be. Fine. But if things get outside of this market structure and we've had our first accumulation and our second accumulation and the reach to that level, we're likely to see this swing up through that 89 if things remain bullish here. And then we start looking for these targets up here. So, I mean, reversion of this massive range is pretty cool. So keep an eye on this thing. It's going to probably take months and years for it to follow through with all this. But in the meantime, we get nice ranges to trade. It's a very trader-friendly stock. So look for accumulation to continue probably the next couple of days. And if we hold this level and we start to become bullish and start looking for a half or whole target, it's pretty obvious. You got the $68 and then $72, pretty obvious bull targets. And if things get really nice, well, I put this third move out there prospectively. It could hit it. Who knows? And then obviously my long-term analyst target, 89 bucks. Another one I was kind of keeping an eye on today, got a great pullback this morning and is set up to maybe make some more bullish reversion trades of all things, AMD. One of the chips is starting to come back, and I'll look at Intel as well. But so far, we've kind of gotten right back into that LZ. I remember last time we talked about this, we were looking at if we breach this range and get the A to B, we'll get the follow through. We made our measured move beautifully. That came through. This is why we have that 94% accuracy rating, stuff like this. And then it gave half back today. So we're right at that level, right at the base of that liquidity zone. So if this maintains support here around 158 and some change, we should see follow through, get back through B.
200-day here is 161.20, by the way. We're right on top of that.
So if we hold that, close the day in that range, look for the swing to continue back through that high, look for a push to 168 again. Things remain bullish. 180 is my ultimate target for reversion of the high to low range here. And then if things get too exciting, the three-legged measured move, or the 2-for-1 I like to call it, takes us right to about 184. So if things remain bullish out of this zone, that's where I'm looking for the extension target. In fact, I'm going to go so far as to maybe say, once things kind of follow through, 183.90 looks like about where I would take profit. Let's call that my analyst target. Whoops. So if I were an accredited analyst, that's where I'd be looking. I think that we're going to see some volatility in the chips continue. I mean, through this whole AI thing, we've got there was a one-of-a-kind AI chip supply, like a mine that supplies some sort of material that kind of got flooded for a little while there in the south. Not that the mine was flooded, but access to the mine was kind of blocked. I wonder if that's going to give us a little bit bigger margin in the supply chain for profit from that material. It's going to be kind of something to keep an eye on. But all in all, when materials become more expensive, it doesn't always put the manufacturers down. They just increase their margin. That margin is typically going to be a sort of fixed percentage, and then they're going to base that margin on that percentage. Well, if that say it's 3%, 3% of 10 is kind of low, but 3% of 100 is kind of high as far as amounts go. So you start to see bigger margins, bigger cash flows, bigger revenue, and well, the equity will reflect it. So yes, supply chain crunches do have a short-term negative effect, but when they bounce, we look for that rotation. We get the reversion trades, and we start to see some things pick up, because if the management is doing their fiduciary duty, that's what they want. They want to benefit the shareholders. The shareholders help build the company. They deserve a little bit, right? There it is on the chart. So look for this range. If we hold here and they do their job and they get through the supply chain crunch on a specific material, and AI is going to have that demand on the chip makers, of course, we could see things start to swing bullish again. So I kind of like the name. AMD looks good. What was the other one I mentioned? Intel. Let me put that on my list. Got time for a little dope on that one. Intel's one I grabbed for a wheel trade off that dip, and it's starting to fall out right back to
holding the 50-day here, but yeah,
kind of went right back to my target and then backed off. But I'm looking at a little bit of a beautiful halfback setup here, by the way. There's your primary, there's your secondary. We hit it to the number today, and we probably going to print a 2-hour doji here. We may be able to grab a pullback and continue long back to 24. So it could be a nice little swing for the options traders in the mix here. And I know I extended my little wedge here, and it did kind of a good job finding where I'd expect to break. But I had the angle wrong on that reversion line or regression line. It should be about there if we're looking at the projection here, and it's right in that range. So looking at the 15-minute, pretty clean, measured move down. So if we find a reversal here on the short term, we should see it bounce right back to that $23.50, $24 range pretty quickly. So keep an eye on this one. I've got some options sold on a long position, so I've got covered calls out, and I've got another cash secured put out. So I'm wheel trading this regardless. I think eventually, if this massive drop pays off, if it gives at least half back, I'm going to be a happy camper, because my cost basis is going to be below this low pretty easily, just selling options on it. So I love wheel trading stuff that makes this kind of move, and this is kind of where I'm looking to be. So doing everything I like it to do. Sometimes you got to have some patience when you go long on something like this. If you grab that massive sell-off like that, it's like catching a falling knife. Have a plan. My plan is long term. I'm going to generate income selling options on this thing until I've offset my cost basis enough to be better than underwater. And I've crossed that threshold now. My cost basis is right in line with where it should be, and I'm continuing to hold and sell options on it. So I'm going to keep generating income on this thing for months to come. If it stays in this range, cool. My cost basis just gets lower than the mean here. If it has another massive sell-off, management takes a giant dump on the thing, well, I'll probably just exit the position and walk away with a small loss. But my cost basis keeps going down as I sell options on it. So, until then, I don't care. They'll just keep generating income. Follow-ups. We got a long list of them, man. I'll start with TEM, one of your babies. That thing has been great. I mean, the trading has just been phenomenal on that thing. Let me grade this out.
Yeah, holding the 50-day here. Again, I think of all the themes that I look at, digital biology may be the one with the largest upside, because we're still we're not even in the first inning on what AI is going to be able to do for biotech. And this is, it's a nascent industry, and this is one of the leading names right now.
And this one kind of gave us, if I draw the whole box here, you can see we're right at about the halfback on that short-term trend here, 2-hour chart. So yeah, if we find that we hold support around $53, this thing looks like a pretty good long entry for a pullback and a swing back to, I would probably target like the 86.6 fib of this previous high for now, short term, but long term, this thing's looking pretty good. Let me go into the weekly chart again. Not been around for very long, obviously, but we're looking at pretty much the makings of either we get a bar, a doji, and a bar out back to this reversion target, or we come back and test half or whole of this bar on a weekly. So, so far the space, like you said, it's in the first inning, but AI stands to give this sector a hell of a boost. So we'll wait and see what breaks out of this range here, and eventually we're going to have a good swing on it. But so far, it's pretty much done everything we thought it would do. It came up and hit that measured move target pretty methodically back to that high. Now we just wait. So this is a time where if you taken profit on this position, just sit on your hands and wait for this this halfback reversal to give us a clue on whether it's going to come back and hit that 86.6 fib or not. So it may give us a swing bet Thursday. We'll keep it in the mix. Snapchat. I mean, I've been given lots of positive feedback on my call out on that one. No one looked at Snapchat, man. I did. That massive sell-off from the earnings, I mean, it just gave us the most beautiful textbook H pattern or double bottom, they're basically the same, that you could ever see. Hasn't hit the half back yet, guys. That's still up here at 1190. I'm marking that. I'm going to turn it purple. That's my mark on it, all right? This analyst says likely to return to there. Let's see what happens with this pullback first, though. Let me go to the 2-hour chart. The primary's done. Accumulation was there. Secondary hit the target. Gave a 2.5 almost with that wick and then pulled back immediately. Watch this area for liquidity, and I think we'll use our old LZ here. So let's go with, as long as we hold above this range, we should see follow through on this thing. If by Thursday we get some good news bears and we start to continue this pullback and find support around $10.30 or so, we have a pretty good shot of resuming our bullish trend. But if we fail this zone,
1006 is the 50-day.
Nice. So it's pretty much,
and 1039 is the 10-day. So a lot of support here.
Right under that edge. So yeah, if it starts to fail this LZ, I mean, sure, we can go back for a reversion of this whole trend and hit 950 again. That's okay. But in the meantime, it's going to give us lots of range to trade. So watch this for our critical support zone. If it holds there, cool, it'll resume bullish. If it breaks that, well, just short it. Pretty simple. But nonetheless, Snapchat gives great swing trade setups and great day trade setups. It just continues to pay the bills, so I'll keep trading it. OKLO, man, that thing is a freaking home run. I mean, if ever accuracy was our thing, and it is, this thing hones it. What do you think the next move is on that one? I kind of got to maybe say it'll extend back to about 872 and then maybe give us some more of a pullback. But what do you think?
So I am looking, I'm really, we got that high of 923 in September. If the 200-day at 986, and nuclear is still nuclear.
Right.
So, we needed a pullback, obviously. I mean, this thing went from, 6 to 850 in a day, along with the other nuclear stocks. And, and there are a bunch of other nuclear names that are on my list of stocks I want to buy that are all curling. This one's having a good day, nice undercut and rally at the 10-day. This could theoretically make a run up to the 200-day, depending on where the overall sentiment in the market goes. But I like this
It's
here.
got that look, and I really like that it gives us really broad range for these somewhat unexpected moves, although we expected them. I like to scalp too, though. So I mean, I like to day trade a bit. If I were to be a day trader, I would like to watch for this as an expected bull target for profit taking, and it kind of just wicked up to it in the last 2-hour candle here. But if it breaches that, I can see easy follow through to run back to that high. So it's looking good for a long-term swing, as well as looking good for basic basic measured move setups. If this thing gets massively boosted by pretty much any of the mainstream analysts, it's absolutely going to generate the most liquid bar you could see. You get this bar repeated up here. It takes us right to the top of the previous LZ here. So if you kind of size this bar up and print it above this mean, it comes right to it. So I think it's going to be exciting nonetheless in the near future. And in the meantime, day traders are controlling it for here, but the swing traders will be watching this area as well. If it starts to creep above this zone, we got a pretty good long entry there. Pullbacks are a gift to swing traders, and when they hit targets precisely and do their thing, well, you get really good trades.
Long-term traders, they are too. You just got to be the right pullback into the right areas, and then you like it, you can add
Absolutely.
to it.
And as far as I built a theory when I first started learning how to trade. As I made a rule to never ever average down. I would always bail and protect capital at all costs. So I wouldn't throw a bunch of money into a sinking ship, especially if it was also burning. But you look at averaging up. That's a different theory. When you start a position and you've got a pretty good amount of capital gain out of your entry on that position, you can afford to put some of that capital gain back into adding to the position at a higher price. And it's proportionate to how much of a percentage return you got on your original entry. But you take some of that liquidity you basically generated out of nothing if you haven't taken profit on a high already. You can also add to the position and average up, and still your cost basis is still going to be below current price. So when you think about that, you can compound a position by using some swings. You can take some profit off at a high and then add that proportion or even all of that profit back to things on a pullback or a dip buy, so to speak. And then you start to realize that it's just a process of what's the word here? Compounding. I've done this in the past. In fact, my first trade ever was compounding. I compounded a small position into a massive position compared to what I started with, and killed it. And then I got enough liquidity to turn into working capital, where I started really taking off with my investment and trading strategies. Long story short, this is a compounding opportunity. So this is where I would say, okay, average up is okay. Never average down. But when you get a pullback like that, and as long as it's holding above your cost basis, yeah, dude, add to the swing. And that's what happens here. Got time for a few more lookovers. NVO is the next one. And NVO has been pretty much dead on with all of our targets. And LZ range here, we got a low zone and a high zone. If it breaks this, we could see a short setup. So be aware if you're long here still, you're getting nervous on the daily chart. If it breaks this zone, we could easily see it trip down to that 105 target.
We did already talk about this one
several times.
Okay. No, I mean today.
Yeah, we have today. But I'm just kind of reiterating. Pay attention to.
I thought I was getting
Nope.
old here. Well, I am getting
Pay
old.
attention to this range. So if you're long here, be careful. But at the same time, it could bounce out. We've already talked about it. But long term, it's going to probably give us a sign here. So we already talked about the targets as far as it can break probably today or tomorrow. Next one, NNE. Did we already talk about NNE?
Not today. Another nuclear.
Followed through, gave us the secondary, beautiful target. Hit the reversion target and then some. And now we're looking for a possibility of follow through above that to finish a 2-for-1.
The only bad thing about NNE is it doesn't have options. But man, even without options, I've almost doubled my 95% gain in this one. Jeez.
It's a hell of an equity trade, man. This is one of those that just
Yeah. I mean, normally I don't buy outright equities, but this was an exception.
It just keeps on trucking. But it is at that mean, so just be nimble and be ready to scalp this a little bit. But if it follows through above this, I think we got a pretty good shot of hitting a 1.5-for-1 in the short term. So look for short-term targets up here about $18. And if it blasts through $18, well, 20 is pretty much the next high. That's pretty easy to find. So yeah, this thing has been killing it. Love this name. Time for a few more. MSTR. Dude, that thing's been a blast too, hasn't it?
Well, I mean, MSTU, we're now at 122 million.
Dang.
And it's been less than a week and a half.
That's got some flow, baby. Nice moves.
And so far today we've traded $50 million.
Dang. And this is just changing hands because we can see there's some profit taking here. And
I mean, we'll see. Yesterday we had 43 million in inflows. We'll see what we have today.
There'll be some liquidity grabbed, but looking as far as like our basic measured move structure, it nailed a 2-for-1, damn near to the penny, and then gave us a little bit beyond a half back. So it's been a great couple of swings over a couple of days here. So yeah, you did see some inflow yesterday for sure. And then we're looking at a pullback, of course, to the previous support from our 1-for-1 measured move. And if we hold this zone here, if we stay at about that 158 level, we could see this thing give us a very quick reversion trade to 169.60 short term. So I think the day traders might even just take it there today. This thing's got such volatility. It's just beautiful. Let's go to a 15-minute chart. We can see a primary and a secondary. That's been met too, if you want to call it high to low, split the mean. Reversion's right there. It's pretty obvious. So watch this next setup here for the next, the 5-minute chart's probably going to wedge out right here. Let me go ahead and split this right off here. So let's say we hold support right around here. We could see this thing give us a nice bull flag here, and by midday start to swing either down through this key support area and revisit the low and give us a double bottom, or hold this area with a wedge, and then bull flag would give us a target probably at about 167.20 possible today. So this thing's just got the volatility to please everybody, whether it's swing traders or day traders. It's glorious. And then your ETF on there is going to kill it with flows all over the place. That's going to be a trader's heaven, especially since it's leveraged.
It has been crazy. I did not fully realize how rabid the MicroStrategy FinTwit group is, but the way the Twitter algo works, once you click on one thing, you get it all. I mean, these guys are fans.
I'm liking it too. It's got great volatility. I might even.
I mean, I bought some yesterday. Not the best timing in the world, but I actually bought it as a longer term position and, hooked it up. So if MicroStrategy goes down, I break even. So,
how's the options flow been on it?
Our options flow, I'm trying to. It moved up so far so fast. It moved past our strikes.
Right.
So we're trying to get that fixed.
Is a spread pretty clean on the bid ask?
I thought the spread was all right. I just see if they fix my strikes. All right.
I'm thinking I might I
No,
might
they
move some capital because I'm in a mode of taking some profit on my TSLT position. I might move some of that capital here and start a wheel position on MSTU. That's looking good. As long as it's got a decent bid ask spread, I
yeah. I
can.
mean, right now our highest strike is 35, and it's
Okay.
36.82. We're working on fixing that.
Okay. Yeah. Once that's fixed, I might migrate some capital over and start wheeling this bad boy. That's
All right,
I
let's
love
go.
leveraged ETFs, man, and my TNA position just keeps paying my bills. So why not add a few more leverage? Cool. I'm liking this one. This is a good one. I think I like this one better than the Bitcoin ETFs, to be honest. Just my opinion. I don't want to.
Well, I mean, it's levered
Right.
Bitcoin. I mean, if you like Bitcoin, and we're seeing flows into our 2x long Bitcoin as well. But I mean, if you like Bitcoin, MicroStrategy is your way to
Right.
go.
Yeah, MSTU is definitely gonna be the way to go on that one. And like I was saying, I'm kind of like I started a wheel position on the Bitcoin ones, and I was like, it was really hard to maintain what I call my threshold yield. So I was like, I might move some capital around, but I still hold a little bit of it, but it's just kind of it's neutral. So I got both the long and the short. Um, I might pull some of that into here too. I like MSTU a lot better, if I'm being honest. I mean,
Yeah,
hands
yeah.
down, it's got the liquidity and the volatility that I really like to see. But I'm not above. I do trade some Bitcoin futures products too. So like I like to trade the micro Bitcoin and just scalp that even overnight. Sometimes I'll hold it overnight. Other times I'll just day trade it. But it's a fixed multiplier versus being wild. So you get into options on that. I don't trade futures options. I would rather trade equity or ETF options. But coming into futures, it's kind of this or that. I could go either way.
Yep.
Last but not least, or we have a couple more if we got time, but MU, that thing's just been gorgeous. I mean, right from range to range. Another chip maker that we love to watch. And do you think it's going to hold around the mean reversion here, around 97.50, or do you think we're going to short it some
So
more?
I'm looking at 97.48. That's the 50-day. I'd want it to hold there. What the CEO came out and said about AI just, really dovetails with everything I've been thinking. Um, but yeah, I would like it. I would like it to hold, to
I
hold
mean, it
here.
gave us a double bottom initially on the daily, and then kind of fell apart a little bit above the LZ there. Didn't quite hit the full reversion target like I thought it would. I put my analyst mark on it at 120 there. Then it started giving half back of the previous trend. I thought, well, if it holds, and I got it at 97.49, and yeah, that MA50 is right at 97.48. If it holds there, it could be a good long, but if it breaks that, I mean, a quick short to 91 or 92 would be an obvious target. Um, I'd say keep an eye on this one. It could give us some opportunity to grab a quick low and then continue running back to that reversion target, or if it falls apart, we got some obvious short targets too. So I'll keep it in the mix. Um, but it did make our plan move pretty well. I mean, that last move was just killer. We called that one out pretty well. It actually got above my target, but I'm liking it for that respect. But I'm not going to break my arm, pat myself on the back with it just yet because it's got this just very rapid pullback. So we'll see what the near future brings on it.
Yes, we will.
I don't want to take up too much of your time. We're right at about an hour now, but I've got like 3 more if you want.
Sure. I have a little more
So we
time.
got LLY, and this thing's set up. 2-hour chart looks
Wait, what is the symbol?
LLY. That yeah,
Oh,
Lily.
Lily. Yeah, yeah.
This thing's been a doll. I mean, just an absolute fun trader, and it just tapped off that reversion or regression line from that reverse wedge I drew a while back. Well, it's a forward wedge, but you know what I mean. And we broke out of the upper wedge. We got the qualifier move right down to the regression line, pretty much, give or take, and we bounced. So we saw some buyers come into this thing. If we get into holding about 881 or so, and we close a nice little doji there, like look at today's candle. If we close a nice little doji here, look for tomorrow to bring some volatility, and either it's going to pop back up to this previous angular support up here and give us a quick swing to like 908, or if it rejects here, we get a very fast liquidity grab to like 848 or so. And I like this thing for volatility. It's a bit much to trade both on the options chain and in the equity because it's kind of a higher priced equity, but you throw a few shares around, and long or short, it's pretty easy to trade. So watch this setup. If we hold this range, we got a pretty good idea of going back to the reversion. And if things get really swifty, sure, we could come up and hit these fib levels up here. But I'm not so confident on that yet until we get through this reversion or this regression line here. But definitely gives us some good trades, and it's pretty much done everything we've said it's going to do. And we were looking at this as the critical support. Looked like a good short to us not so long ago, and then all of a sudden, bam! It finally broke, gave us a reversion. I think further on, if you look at the big picture on this thing, we're going to stay in this range for at least one more swing. And if we smoke this reversion target, it's pretty obvious we could hit down here in the 790s. That's when things get really opportunistic, because we've seen gaps fill, and if they fill twice, usually they give us a quick reversion, and that's right where that angular would meet price if time is correct. If it gives us a very fast short, that's where it's going to bounce. So love range trades, and this is really good for swing traders. So keep an eye on this one. Don't take it off your radar. It's got some good moves. Overnight swings are just glorious on this thing. So be mindful of it. We added a couple. I put one in there. I snuck one in there on you. You weren't around last Tuesday, but I put this on the board. CPRI. And we've talked about it before. Back when we were talking about Kramer stuff, but since then I had deleted my dope on it. I think this was just might have been back like right at the beginning of our thing. We're looking at Kramer saying buy it. We said hell no, short it. Well,
could have been, but then, I mean, this is a nice breakout here.
So long term wise on the daily chart, we eventually made the second reach market structure. So this is looking like the tail end of the short squeeze, so to speak, on the first leg for market structure. And that breakout was beautiful. It popped up on the breakout scanner, but then people started chasing it, and of course profit was taken. And we look at reversion trades, pretty obvious pivot right there. It didn't quite hit that yet. It can extend a little higher. Maybe watch for accumulation. Maybe we get a bull flag here and we follow through to that $43, $44 target. It looks like a pretty nice cup and handle. And this is what I was talking about on Tuesday, is that cup was just perfect. And then all of a sudden we got just the shortest little pullback handle here, and then blam, absolutely ripped the face off. So good to go on this one. I had the bull target a little lower than I should have. I had it at like 41.62, which is just a basic measured move. But that candle from yesterday kind of closed right at that target, and then it took off higher. So it made about a 1 1/4 move higher. And in the after hours there, it got to like 43 and 35 right there. Pulled back. So look for support now at my previous bull target, around 41.60, and we'll see if we can continue to push to that 43.95 or $44 target. So kudos to me on that one. And then another one I called out, I kind of snuck it in there, Bristol Myers again, BMY. This thing is just pretty obvious. We had the nice 1-for-1 setup here. We got the accumulation, big old bull flag break. It pretty much almost hit that liquidity range low at about 52.90. It may finish that move today. And if it closes a nice big old bar here, look for tomorrow to find some volatility. It'll either go quick A to B and then profit taking might take it back down for a reversion trade. It's about where the half move is if we count this as our primary. So that's about where the short-term target is going to be. But if it melts through that with some force, and it could very well do so, we got earnings coming up next week. this thing can really blast and shoot for that full 1-for-1 up to 57.28. And I've never been a big fan of trading this until we started messing with it with Kramer. This is back in the day. Got all the dope on it. Because it was just never really a very interesting chart. It was just choppy and hard to read. But now it's got just beautiful price action. It's done everything methodically. And the full reversion from this whole downtrend that we talked about all the Kramer bars in between when he said buy it. We're looking for a reversion to about 59.70 possible here, and that's within reason from our current price action. So yeah, that's pretty awesome. We love to catch stuff like that, but just be aware there's liquidity right here. I think there's going to be some profit taking in the short term, and then with earnings coming out next week, we should see either a blast through this or a rejection and a good short. So kudos. Well, I guess we can call it us. I think we talked about it a week or two ago. Calling these numbers out.
Yeah, probably.
If I recall. And then I snuck it in there on Tuesday. I said, hey, watch this again. Here it is. Beautiful. All right, I guess we can wrap with that. Thankful, I can't remember the username, but we had a guy reply to last week and gave us a few tickers to check out, and that's where I had that special edition where I went and did some research on it. I'm happy to do that again. If you guys want to throw us a comment with some tickers to look at, I'll even give Matthew a call and see if he's free tomorrow. Maybe we can, if we do get a comment back, we'll go and check out your tickers for you. We're happy to.
Yeah, totally.
If you're around, I'll reach out to you and we'll see what we do. So shoot us a comment. If you got something you want us to look at, we're happy to. We're here to help and also entertain. But more than anything, we love to give a perspective of price action analysis. And I don't want to say that you should buy or sell anything. That's pretty much out of the clause. But we can give you an idea of how to look at things. That's our goal. And we're not financial advisors, but we're happy to help you find ways to find your own price targets. That's what we're about.
Actually, I kind of am, but not in this aspect.
No, different licensing. But nonetheless, we're damn accurate. We're good at what we do. We're both trading for a living, and we can show you how, and we can also show you some pretty easy, obvious price targets. We're good at that, and man, we love those easy trade setups, and we pay our bills with it. Oh, take that under your wing and not call it financial advice, but call it an ability to kind of show you what is possible, and then you can make the decision on whether you trade it or not. So that's what we're about, and we help you learn. All right, well, thanks again. Appreciate your viewers. Gosh, we got 42 views already. That's pretty cool for a live broadcast. And then we are looking to expand. Yeah. So I mean, tell your friends. We've got the clout. We've got the history to prove that we're really good at this. The more people you tell, the more we'll do it. We're doing twice a week now because we've been kind of ticking up. We could do this all week long if you're down, man. I love talking stocks, and hey, it's good to have someone live to bounce ideas off of. So
there you go.
Right on. Well, thanks again, guys. Join us next week, and Tuesday will be around next week as well. And then also Thursday, we're gonna probably have some killer setups by Thursday.